Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Oliver Mtapuri. I'm with the School of Built Environment and Development Studies. My school is quite unique in the sense that it's one of those very much, I would say, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary. So it's a very unique opportunity to be there. So I have a panel. Obviously, we're going to be talking about cross-border education, and also we'll talk about online teaching, as well as we're going to talk about staff and student mobility. We see value in that. I'm going to introduce, obviously, I've got a panel. We are almost about, in my panel, we've got 6. I'm going to introduce some of them. So we see value in cross-border education in the sense that it is cross-border, meaning that it has to do with a movement of people, also programs, campuses. We have seen that aggression, even if you look at some other universities, especially those that are private. If you look at it broadly, American universities are very good at that. We have seen American universities, for instance, in Dubai, for instance, American universities and so on. So some see it very much more commercial, some universities, because by nature they are private. And you see them, you know, as they see even the invitation to foreign students as a way to make money. Besides the money, obviously, the issue of knowledge transfer. So if we move towards, obviously, the knowledge economy, we see that internationalization is very important for any university. And we see also that for us, even, the challenge is that in the context of internationalization, we've done quite a lot, even working with European American University and so on, but also we see another movement towards Africanization. How do we work with African universities? I know we have lots and lots of collaborations with European universities, American universities, but less so with our own African counterparts. That's where I liked what Prof. Kaleni was saying, that we need to work as Africans. And also, I want to go back as well. Besides working within the context of Africa, I want to work with universities in the SADC region. I want to work with universities in the west of Africa, in Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana. I want to work with universities in the east of Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda. I want to work even with those universities in Ethiopia, obviously, and other universities in the north, Arab North, Egypt, Algeria, and those places. So yes, there is room for us to work. So when we look at cross-border education, therefore, it's now working across nations. So that's what's important. Also working virtually, there are those possibilities that also COVID showed us that yes, we can work virtually. When we talk, essentially, obviously, that would mean that even joint programs, joint, teaching practices, and so on. Very important for raising awareness of cross-cultural sort of awareness. It does raise, it also teaches us a lot of tolerance, obviously, of each other, because we're learning from each other. There's a lot that happens with respect to innovation, for instance. People, when they work in those teams, obviously, we see that their innovation comes into play. And we see also with online teaching, it has opened those possibilities to work across those borders. With virtual learning, we saw it happen with our students. A lot of learning did take place. And we have seen value also in student staff mobilities, very important, where staff have gone out and taught, and we've seen a lot of appetite. If you look at when we did some trip to, say, Poland, there were some universities there, even they were saying that we have never had any engagements with African universities. We are so keen and eager to do that. And that's what we see with these collaborations. But they've had a lot of experience with the Erasmus EU-sponsored program. So that's where we see that, yes, we create those global citizens. The character and the person becomes a different person when you work in collaboration. Yes, that awareness of being, say, an African. So I have my team. I'm going to introduce, and I have co-chairing with Prof. Shannon Ramsey. I hope she will introduce some of our members as well. I have here Dr. Ntombela. She has a PhD in human resource management from our university here, and her work looked at sexual and gender non-normative employees in the KZN region. She started her career obviously as a human resource development consultant with us, and then later branched into academia. She is a lecturer and her areas of research include gender and sexualities, organizational development, industrial relations, and she will be one of the panel members. She's with the School of Management, IT and Governance with us. And also we have in my panel, this panel I'm going to introduce, the people I'm going to introduce. Prof. Shannon Ramsey will introduce the other ones. I've got Jacqueline Cole. She's the Public Diplomacy Officer with the U.S. Consulate here in Durban. Jacqueline has a diplomatic career with over 14 years in the U.S. Foreign Service, and she's the current Public Diplomacy Officer at the U.S. Consulate in Durban. And Jacqueline and her staff are in charge of U.S. mission to South Africa's cultural exchanges, educational outreach, media engagement in the province. And prior to her coming to South Africa, Jacqueline led public diplomacy teams in Cabo Verde, Burundi, and Zambia. And she has held a range of positions in Washington, including Digital Media Officer in the State Department's Bureau of Public Affairs, Innovation Officer, and Watch Officer for Crisis Management for the Department's Executive Secretariat, and a Public Diplomacy Country Affairs Desk Officer, where she supported about 17 U.S. Embassy outreach programs in West Africa and the establishment of the Young African Leaders Initiative. Jacqueline has got bachelor's degrees in political science and Afro-American studies from Howard University, and a master's degree in African studies and a graduate certificate in international development from Yale University. Her academic interests center on Black social movements, Africa and African diaspora relations, and youth policy and innovation in Africa. Jacqueline is also trained and serves as an executive coach and facilitator outside her work with the State Department. So that Jacqueline will be, she's here. And also we have Suzanne Knowles. She's the Education Exchange Coordinator with the U.S. Consulate here in Durban. Suzanne is a strong advocate for international education and exchange with over 20 years of advising and program experience. She's originally from New York State, and she has worn many hats, including work as an international student advisor at the University of Arkansas. And also Susan joined the public diplomacy team in 2006 as part-time educational USA advisor. Her portfolio expanded to full-time position, promoting U.S. diplomatic missions, various exchanges, and working with applicants and participants. That Suzanne is here with us. We're glad that she will be here with us. And also, I'm going to introduce Prof. Sivakuma Venkataraman. He's currently working here at UKZN and has been seconded with the Department of Science and Innovation as a Director for National Astrophysics and Space Science Program. His work focused on atmospheric studies from the ground to ionosphere, using different ground-based and space-borne observations. He's actively involved in various levels of teaching, first year to third year and postgraduate supervisions, honors, masters, and doctoral and postdoctoral students. He's currently supervising 8 PhD and 5 master's degree students, and 9 postdoctoral, 13 PhD, and 11 master's degree students have already completed anyways. 13 PhDs have completed under his supervision and 11 masters. He has published over 250 research articles, 128 journal, 116 peer-reviewed conference proceedings. He's got 1 book and 5 book chapters. So that's, I would now want Prof. Shannon Ramsey to introduce the rest of the panel. Is Shannon around somewhere? Oh, Shannon, quiet.
That's the first time in my life people have said they didn't see me. I'm telling you. Okay. Good afternoon, and I bring you greetings from the United States Bowie State University, which is my home institution. And so let me introduce our additional panel members for you. First person is Reginald Govinder. He's a lecturer in computer science education at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He coordinates computer science education modules dealing with coding and robotics. He also teaches and supervises postgraduate research in computer programming, education robotics, and ICT integration. He's also been awarded the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Teaching and Learning Award, which obviously gives him an opportunity to share different experiences related to cross-border education. Let me say this before I introduce the other two panel members. I'm sorry, I don't know where she went, but the young lady earlier explained that Africans have a different concept of time. I'm learning that, but until I quite get there, I've kept these introductions brief. They've given quite a bit of wonderful information, so don't take it personal if I didn't read all of it. I'm trying to keep it brief and keep us moving. But I will allow them to share the rest of their illustrious careers. All right, so the next panel member is Dr. Favoret Mlongo. Say it again for me. Okay, thank you. She serves as lecturer in social science in the discipline of commerce education at the Edgewood campus. She also serves as lecturer with a great deal of experience in higher education, including, obviously, the University KwaZulu-Natal. She is serving in the School of Education, Accounting, Economics, and Finance. I'm thinking that's to name a few. That's not the end of the list, just the beginning. She has served as a visiting scholar at the University of Columbia Teachers College in 2020. Again, gives her a great opportunity to be able to share that cross-cultural education experience. And then the fourth panelist, I'm missing somebody, is Vusi Unsuva. I'm sorry, I'm awful, correct me. Put it on American, it's American thing, just, yeah, call it that. Is an early career academic at the University of KwaZulu-Natal School of Education. He teaches undergraduate modules in early childhood education, and he currently is a candidate in the Accelerated Academic Leadership Development Program, which award him the opportunity to attend Teachers College at Columbia University as a visiting scholar. Apparently, two of you have that in common, right? Awesome. Okay, so here are all the members of our panel. As discussed earlier, we will give each of them 5 minutes to be able to speak, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Thank you. Who would like to start?
Okay, I think I was closest to the mic, so that's why I had to start. Okay, thank you, Prof. Shannon Ramsey, for those kind introductions. My name is Reginald. I'm here with 4 of my colleagues, Vusi, Favorite, and Lungi, and we're going to give you a snapshot of our international experience, what we've experienced traveling to the United States, and visiting Columbia University. So we've kind of summed it up in 4 themes, key themes, where we give you the snapshot. You know, it is a snapshot. Our experiences, you know, traveling abroad we can go on for days talking about it. Every day was a learning experience for us. And I think it's now built into our academic DNA. It's who we've become. So we'll be very brief. I'm going to be starting off with transitioning, and then I will let my colleagues to introduce what they're going to be talking about as we go along. So our transitioning period, I think for us it started off in 2018, 2019, where we were invited to be part of this program to receive international mentorship. And it was a collaboration between 3 universities, UKZN being the lead university in South Africa. And then we had 20 academics. So lecturers that were busy with their PhDs to form part of this cohort group that would receive mentorship during their research at a local level with experts in the country and then experts out of the country. So our original plan was to go to the University of Iowa, and that was many months of planning. And then, you know, I would say it's unfortunate that things didn't pan out the way that with them. And thanks to our dean, Professor MCB, for actually, and the managers, Dr. Masinga, to actually, you know, get in touch with Columbia University and bring them on board. So the 20 academics traveled to the United States to Columbia University, the Teachers College, and we were to be there for a semester, auditing modules and receiving mentorship from experts in our research fields. But there were a lot of challenges along the way, and during that transitioning period for us, we are very fortunate to Professor Portia Williams from Columbia University, from the International Office, and also Blessing Nuga from that International Office, because Professor Williams actually came down to South Africa in 2019, and she met with us face to face, giving us tips, what clothing to take, what climate we're going to expect, etc. And that was really helpful. And we also met with our mentors online before we could even see them face to face. So there was a kind of a rapport that we developed, so that when we finally met our mentors face to face, it wasn't like we were meeting people for the first time. But my colleague, Dr. Mshlongo, will discuss more about that under mentorship. And then, you know, going to the United States, the first day when we arrived there in New York, and I think that every location, every university around the world is unique. And we had to just stop and pause for a bit to actually decrypt what the person was trying to tell us. Because, you know, the accent that they spoke, the words, the choice of words that was used, like napkins, barbecue, we call it a braai in South Africa. So, so all of these things, and then I remember the cuisine, the food, you know, it's always nice when you're traveling to experiment with the food, but after a while you tend to miss your own food. And I remember eating turkey burger that looked like beef but tasted like chicken for the first time. So, so all of this was part of our experience. Unfortunately, you know, we had to, our time in the United States were cut short because of the pandemic, and we had to return back home. But that experience, I think the transitioning experience, and even the academic life and the ethos and the culture that's at Columbia University, it's quite different from what we experience back home. Not forgetting the situation that and the challenges that South African students face. But on that first day of lectures, I remember at Columbia University, the vibe that you could get there, that everyone was ready to learn, the passion that was there. I still remember when we left in 2020, in Jan, we were still in this APA 6 style of referencing. We were talking about moving to 7 style. And when we got to Columbia, everyone was using 7 style as if it was around for many years. You know, we could see that the way in which advancements in the educational sector, how it was embraced. But it was a very rewarding, enriching experience. Also being on the other side of the table, you know, being a lecturer, a staff member in South Africa, and then becoming a student, taking on that student's role. I think it was one of the most enriching and rewarding experiences because there's so much that we learned through that. I'm not going to talk any more further. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Ntombela, who's going to talk about auditing of modules.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Prof, for the introduction. Indeed, my name is Lungile Ntombela. And as Reg has mentioned, we were part of the cohorts, the African cohorts that went to TC, Columbia University, and we were able to stay there for a while. So I'm going to just briefly speak about auditing of the modules. So we were given an opportunity to audit modules. So many of us chose between 2 or 3 modules to audit. But before we were able to actually start and be part of the class, we then had to send an email to the lecturer concerned or the professor thereof to obviously request that we are part of the class and audit the class. And you know, we really received a positive feedback from our professors. They were glad to have us audit their classes. They were willing to assist us even after the classes. So we really got quite a positive response from those professors that we are going to audit classes. So as I've mentioned, we did in fact audit 2 to 3 modules, and the selection of these modules was based on our own interests, our PhD studies, as well as perhaps some of the interests that are arising from some of the work that our students are doing back home. So, and I think that's where we got a bulk of the modules that we had audited. So I'm just going to quickly speak about the classroom experience because for us it was definitely different. And I think the first thing I want to mention is the class size. At that time, having a class between 8 and 15 students was relatively small, in fact very small, in comparison to some of the classes that we teach at UKZN. So the classes were very small, very intimate. You actually got to learn each other's names quite quickly. And so that was really about the size of the classes, but also the composition. So the students that were part of many of the classes that we had audited were from many different parts of the world. Now, this was definitely new to us because as much as we have engaged with foreign or exchange students within UKZN. I mean, it's only 1 or 2 of those. But here, it's 90%, 99.9% of the students that are here are from different parts of the world, and we would be the only South Africans. So that definitely was different, but we benefited from that, getting to understand the cultures from the students, so the countries that the students were from, also being able to understand how they view education. And also maybe perhaps to really understand how they make sense of their own surroundings. One thing that I do also want to mention, that when we had started auditing, we were a bit worried and a bit anxious about whether or not we're going to cope with the load and perhaps also be able to grapple with the content. But I'm pleased to say that we were able to do this quite easily. And I think when we got back, we were all quite excited and proud of ourselves that indeed South African education is at a very, very high level. And UKZN and Sionubala, and we went there to represent. And the discussions that we had within our classrooms allowed for us to engage, talk about the South African experience, and our colleagues also wanted to hear. So students that we were with in our classes that we audited wanted to hear the South African experience, and obviously we were gladly able to speak about South Africa in terms of education. All right, one other thing that I want to mention also is the teaching approach in our classes. So it was definitely student or learner-centered, where the lecturer would play more of a facilitative role, and then the student, so us as well as the facilitator, would then work actively together in the learning process. So we definitely had a lot of work that we did in groups, not only in the classroom itself, but as well as the assessments. So a lot of the assessments were group or peers working with someone else. So that was kind of what we were experiencing within the classes. But also because the ways in which the modules were designed, most of them were actually block classes where we would have classes the whole day, for maybe 2 weeks, and the classes would also then roll over to the weekend. So we really had, enough time to engage with our colleagues, even on a social level, and that really assisted in developing these peer relations or friendships that we had, engaging with our colleagues on that front. So it assisted us to even, if we're seeing them in the corridors at TC, we were able to greet. It made us feel like we were part of the family, the TC family. But most importantly, we also felt like we were accepted. Being able to meet each other in the cafeteria on a first name basis, being able to talk about work activities. So that was very, very important. Then perhaps also, I think what we need to also touch on is the usage of technology. During that time, we definitely were exposed to things like Skype, but at that time we had never heard of Zoom, and I think during the time that we were auditing, that was the first time we were hearing about Zoom as an official online platform. So I think many of us were excited, and we thought we'd come home and we're going to pioneer this into our disciplines and our department because no one knows about it. But little did we know that COVID was going to happen, and here we are, Zoom and other online platforms are just, the order of the day. We also used a lot of, the classrooms were very paperless. And I'm happy to see that my colleagues are all having their iPads on because that's what's, the culture of the class. Everyone had an iPad. We were downloading apps, things like Centimeter and Poly, which were new to us at the time. We used those apps to engage with each other during our class interaction, so we definitely made note of that to be able to use back home. So again, that was different from us because we were not used to it. We had our pieces of paper and pen, but I think after the second class, we kind of really wanted to immerse ourselves into the culture, and we went off and bought, and we were able to get ourselves the right electronic machinery. I think one more before I allow Dr. Mhlongo to take over is the fact that we were in an Ivy League institution, and that allowed us to get limitless access to resources. We really enjoyed this, not only in terms of the online platforms, but we were also able to attend and gain access to physical libraries. If you just show them your TC student cards, we were able to then go into the local community libraries. We were also able to use the libraries at Barnard College, which was also an institution very close to TC, which I think most of us were able to use because a lot of the work that they produce at Barnard is feminist work, and a lot of our work is then housed there. So we definitely were able to take heed of that and enjoyed that. So I'm going to stop there and hand over to Favourite to continue. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chair, for the lovely introduction. My name is Favourite Mhlongo, and I come from the School of Education. Like my colleagues, I also had the opportunity to be taken to Columbia University. It was a very lovely experience. We're incredibly lucky. Thank you, Prof. Msibi, for arranging this international exposure, because most of us, to most of us, it was our first time abroad, and we were very lucky to get that opportunity. My task is to talk about mentoring, the type of mentorship that we got through this experience. And I must just say that in this project that the USDP project, we do have two types of mentors. We have a local mentor coming from the UKZN, and we are also attached to one other international mentor from the Columbia University Teachers College. But because today we are looking at international exchanges, I'm going to limit my reflections on, I'm just going to limit my reflection to just the international mentorship that I received. The first thing perhaps that I would want to say is that each of us, all 20 of us, experienced different types of mentorships. And this is because we were allocated to different people within the Columbia community. So most of my reflection will obviously be coming from my personal experience of mentorship. I must just be honest, from the word go, when I left South Africa, I had never actually spoken to anyone about my career strategy and my plan in academia until I was attached to someone who sat down with me and said, "What are your plans for the next 10 years? And I was like, I have never given that a thought. Allow me to think about this and then I'll let you know. And then she gave us time to actually come up with a plan. And there I was in my room and I'm like, God, I have never thought about this. But my mentor actually is very nurturing. Her name is Professor Carol Hammer, a very lovely lady. I just remember on the first day when we met virtually, I was like, God, please give me someone that I'm going to click with. And my prayers were answered, because to this very day, I have a very close relationship with Professor Hammer, despite the distance between us. We connect, we send each other work. She calls me after the floods in Durban. She actually gave me an email and said, I heard about what happened in Durban. Are you safe? And I was like, Prof, I'm safe. My family is safe. So the type of relationship that we've got, transcends beyond the academic borders. She provides, psychosocial support to me. She's my strength. I always tell her that. But I must just be honest as well. I'm also very lucky in the sense that even locally, I was attached to Professor Anya Philip. I said, there's no way that I'm not going to mention this lovely woman who's had such an incredible impact in my life, in my academic journey, just because I have to talk about international relations and our experience internationally. She's also played a very big role in my career advancement. So overall, the general feeling between us when we had a chat about our different experiences with mentoring, the central idea that we all got was that these people genuinely care about our career advancement. And I believe Prof. Msibi carefully selected these individuals knowing the type of support they are able to provide and given their profiles as well. So each of us were basically linked to these mentors based on our research areas and based on the methodologies that we're using in our respective studies. And if that particular person didn't have the right expertise, I appreciated the fact that some of our mentors would tell us or link us with other people who can also help us in other areas, perhaps where they lack the necessary expertise. So I appreciated that because they provided guidance to us. I recall I said to Prof. Msibi during our break that I am going to tell the world what happened to me on the very first day I got to New York, because I feel like everybody deserves to hear this story. When I met my mentor for the very first time virtually via Zoom, we were still here in South Africa, and I remember we were greeting, and I was like, God, this person is from New York, maybe she's not going to be approachable. And here I was talking to this very lovely, very warm individual, and she spoke about, the academic stuff, but she also switched to providing us with orientation. So she was giving us a tour of New York via Zoom, and she said to us, "Don't get lost. You'll be taking the subway, and this is your number." She actually came with the number to tell us, if you get lost, just tell someone that this is my subway number. And I remember I was writing everything she was saying, everything. I was trying to capture everything on paper, and I took that paper with me when I went to New York. Not knowing that I'm going to need this very same information the very first day I land there. So first day we get there, and Prof Msibi is like, let's take you guys to Times Square, get to experience New York. And we were like all excited, and we were taking the subway. I'm not sure what happened. Prof Msibi, maybe you can explain what happened. But I ended up being separated from the entire group. And there I was on the subway. I'm not sure where I am. I don't have my cell phone. I have no other means of communicating with the rest of the group. And I was like, how am I going? Then I thought to myself, Professor Hema said something about Route 5. Take Route 5 all the time. And then I approached this young lady and I said, how do I get to number 5? She said, sorry, and their accent is very different, And I said, sorry? And I was like, okay, I'm looking for, I need a subway back to Route 5. And she said, okay, and she said something, all I could just see was where she was pointing, because I just didn't get what she was saying. Okay, take Route 5, and then she pointed to that subway. And then I took the subway, and when I got there, everybody was so concerned. I remember the look on Prof Msibi's face. He was like, God, what was I going to say? First day, and somebody is lost, and you have no cell phone. And I just remember just how human our mentors were the first time we met them. They just didn't talk about academia, but they realized that we are human beings, and getting lost is also, sadly, a reality that we might, we might have to deal with. So I was really impressed with that, having the human aspect to mentorship, which is what we appreciate. So I've also learned a lot as to how to mentor students as well, from the types of mentorships that I've received as well. I've realized that I have to be human to my students. I have to listen. Listening skills are very critical if you are serving a mentorship role to someone. Having the ability to listen and to remember, because you don't have to remind someone that I told you this last week. Having the ability to remember is also very critical. That is what I try to do with my students now. That when they tell me something, if I think I'm going to forget, I write it down, so that next time we have a conversation, I don't say to them, "Oh, sorry, you said that last week," because then they feel they are not important to us as mentors. So I learned a lot, and I also like the fact that she also invited us to her house in another state, and we got to see the state, and it was very lovely. And I know that with my fellow members from South Africa, we had a great time with our mentors. They also made sure that we submit on time, because that was the whole intention, Prof Msibi. It wasn't just about us going around and enjoying being in New York, but we had time frames. So they were there for us to account to. We were to account to them. I remember that every Monday we had a writing session with my mentor. And what I liked about that writing session is that she included us with her other students, her PhD students. And here I was interacting with people from South Korea, because she also paired us according to our expertise as well. And I was paired with Kancha, and Kancha is from South Korea. And what a lovely lady she was as well. So we got to network through our mentors. They linked us to other people as well. And it was such an incredible experience. I always tell people that this is an experience that I will tell even my grandchildren, that, you know what, this is what I experienced in my lifetime, and I wish the same for my kids as well. So I do want to thank UKZN for this lovely opportunity, and it was incredible. Once in a lifetime.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Chair. My name is Vusi Msiza, and let me, the theme that we decided that I'll address is well-being and safety. And let me start home, just to thank Professor Msivi for coming up with this brilliant idea. I think it's a game changer in terms of professional development. And I had the privilege of attending the launch of USDP. And not to say that I'm praising our own, but our program was the best in the country. And I think you should be happy, Prof. Msibi, because it's actually yielding results. And I think my colleagues haven't mentioned that it was not only UKZN, but we had partners, the Durban University of Technology, as well as the University of Zululand, their schools of education. So of the 20, we had candidates from the 3 universities. And then I would like to start with when we arrived. I think the first 3 days, we went for shopping because we had to get clothing items that were good for the weather condition that side. And I want to highlight that Professor Portia Williams and Professor Msibi and Dr. Masinga, they took us to Harlem to buy the clothing items. And I must say that I've never seen the level of humanity that Prof. Portia Williams and Blessing showed us. And I think she occupies a very serious office. She's a vice provost for academic planning and global affairs. But she was very supportive. I think she made our stay there pleasant, and we really enjoyed ourselves, because I thought I would be missing home, but I must say I was just comfortable and enjoying New York. Yeah, and also I also have to applaud the office of Prof. Portia Williams in making sure that we were comfortable, because one of the things I've seen, the office is efficient. And I think that's something we need to improve even in our own institution and in South Africa. She was very supportive, but also highly efficient and demanding in terms of the work. You would send the email, and within 3 hours you got the response, and even with additional information. That's impressive. I've never seen something like that. And it actually ensured that our stay was comfortable. And I also want to pick up on what my colleagues have mentioned, especially on auditing modules. I had a very, one of the professors that I audited modules was called Gender and Curriculum. She was very supportive. I think we were 2 in her class, and she gave us an opportunity to teach, so I taught in that master's class. And I must say that we registered as students, they're non-credit, but we were also academics from South Africa, so we had to negotiate both identities, and sometimes there were overlaps, but I think she was very supportive in the sense that she gave us space to teach, and I realized that when I taught, and also my other colleague Ndumisongiti, when he taught his own section, the students there, they realized that Africa is not what Trevor Noah would say. It's not the jungle. So there's knowledge, and people are thinking and are producing theory. And as I also want to pick up on what Lungi has said, that for me, I'm very tech savvy. My dean knows that. So when I went to the US, and my other colleagues who are sitting there, my co-authors, we actually went to the US having working in our work is cloud-based. But when we got there, I must say that the visit emphasized the importance of taking our work into a cloud. These days, when I see someone using USBs and your hard drives, I actually laugh at them and say they need to move with the world. And I think moving to TC and Columbia University emphasized the importance of technology. And then we also had challenges that I need to highlight. There was a misalignment in terms of health insurance. We purchased health insurance in South Africa, and when we visited campus clinic, which is called Columbia Health, we were told you needed to get one from here, and that created a bit of anxiety. And when COVID started, we were more anxious, and I must say that traveling with a group of 20 individuals, we formed our mini COVID task team, and besides our PhDs and writing for publication, we also read quite widely in terms of COVID because we wanted to be comfortable, and we know what the president of the US that time was doing. So all that created anxiety. So again, I also like the working culture of New York, and I miss that. I miss we could have such a safe environment, especially within the vicinity of Morning Heights, where Columbia is. We used to walk, and I think it was good for my health. I actually lost a bit of this big tummy, and also the rest of my colleagues, I think they also enjoy that. I also want to highlight something that there was also fear amongst the 20. I think we had more men and they were black. The fear of being black in America, it's something that I have to speak about. And it was worse for me because before traveling to US, I read a book titled Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And one of the quotes that I want to read to you today, there are two. Open quotes, here is what I would like for you to know. In America, it is traditional to destroy the black body. It is heritage, close quote. Another one, each time a police officer engages us, death, injury, maiming is possible, close quote. So knowing that and traveling to the US, and also we know that the mayor in the New York City at the time was, I think he introduced the stop and frisk. So all those stories, I think, for me, they were horrific. So being around the Morning Heights was better because campus security was patrolling and ensuring our safety. But traveling to the Lower Manhattan, I think I was always anxious when I traveled there because I suffer from sinusitis. So someone said, if they say hands up, and I just imagine, what if I have some itchiness that I have to touch my face? I'll be shot dead. So I think apart from the beauty of New York, but being black for me, the color of my skin was just a problem, especially traveling in the Lower Manhattan. And we last point, Chair, that I want to highlight was we had touch points. These were workshops for writing and safety. And again, the office of Prof. Williams, as well as the mentors, they organized a black lawyer who worked in South Africa during the negotiation when we were transitioning from apartheid to democracy. They also brought campus security, who ensured us on how to navigate the anxiety around police brutality and being a black man in the US. And thank you to corporate relations. Today I learned a new word, the Zondo Commission. When you invite us next time, we'll come. You don't have to issue summons.
All right, thank you so much. It's great to hear that our colleagues had such a wonderful experience studying abroad in the United States. So very quickly, please indulge me as a recovering academic from long ago. This is like I'm so excited to be in this space. I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and some of the hard truths around post-COVID international education and cross-border. education. Specifically, I'm going to focus on international students, study abroad, and university partnerships, and then I'll allow my colleague Susan Knowles to focus more on our academic exchange portfolio. So despite the difficulties of COVID-19, I think the main takeaway I want this room to have is that the United States remains a top destination for people studying abroad overseas, and that's because of our strong academic and institutional support at U.S. universities and the value of the U.S. degrees and graduate careers. Also, despite COVID, the U.S. is a top study abroad destination for South Africans, and South Africa remains a top destination for American students. And as you all have discussed, academic faculty exchanges remain very critical to both countries. As you all have noted, they're one of the top countries for receiving states in the United States for international students is New York, as well as California, Massachusetts, Texas, and Pennsylvania. So a little bit about the bad news. So the number of South African students studying in the US decreased between 2020 and 2021, but only by an average of 100 students. Unfortunately, the study abroad rate decreased between 2018 and 2020 by a rate of 60%. That's almost exclusively due to COVID. The good news is U.S. higher education is reporting that there's over almost 70% increase in the number of new international students in the 2021-2022 academic year, which is a notable increase given the decline that we saw due to COVID. So we are seeing these numbers bounce back. I think a large factor of that has to do with the blended educational processes that we have now. So in-person and virtual gives us more options. And South Africa is the top destination on the continent for US students traveling abroad. That was in 2018 and 2019, and we see that despite a slight drop due to COVID, it was still the case in 2020, and we expect it to be the case this year as well. What's encouraging is the tourism trends. If those follow in the academic space, I think we have a lot to look forward to. In 2021, the United States became the top visitors to South Africa, budging out the UK based on South African tourism data. That was a 14% increase in 2020. And so what we're seeing based on our colleagues in the consular section who handle student visas is despite COVID year over year for the last 3 years, we've seen an increase in the number of student visas that have been issued here in the KZN. Despite COVID, we've seen a 38% increase in student visa applications, and that is exceeding even pre-COVID levels. So one of the things I want to focus on is sort of some of the programs that we have and how they've been affected by COVID. One of them particularly is the University Partnership Initiative. So the United States and South Africa have a really unique relationship in our US-South Africa higher education network. And these focus on, first, the University Partnership Initiative through the Department of State, which Susan and I work for. South Africa has the highest number of university partnerships through that structure than any other country on the continent. So through that mechanism, we've created this US-South Africa higher education network, which focuses on 3 goals: increasing student and faculty exchanges, increasing the doctoral pipeline, and our third point, help me, Professor Masibi, it's commercialization. Also, commercialization. So what's wonderful about that is we saw how the university partnership could still be profitable to both sides, even during COVID relationship. So recently yesterday actually, we visited the Edgewood campus to talk about a partnership that we had focused on academic literacy for the School of Education. That program when we initially came up with federal assistance to support it, was supposed to be in person. Obviously with COVID, that was not the case. So actually a year in, they've just had their first in-person mentoring of students, for first-year doctoral students, this week. That entire program had to go virtual. And much of the support from the university, Columbia University's Teacher College, also happened virtually. I think we also see, now that we're coming post-COVID, we have another federal assistance program that's going to focus on racial justice and equity through this School of Education. And what is great about that program is we've now worked to blend the in-person opportunities. So we're going to have 24 master's and doctoral students traveling between the United States and KZN, focused on these questions of racial justice and equity in the academic space, and then moving that out into the real world. They're going to have modules that happen in person, but beyond that, they're going to have monthly virtual programs. And that, I think, is so much of what the benefits, if the silver lining, if we say, from the COVID-19 experience is being able to take what the connectivity of this virtual opportunities that we've learned through COVID and online learning, and match it with the real human connections that we get from in-person learning. I think I want to finish with the hard truths. The reality is COVID taught us a lot about where we stand in terms of the digital divide. That's in the United States, but also globally. And what we are recognizing is, while right now Asia has the highest population, globally, by 2030, 2035, the highest population will be in Africa and the largest youth population. COVID-19 has shown us where the deficits are in terms of learning, and particularly online learning, specifically for the disadvantaged and those in rural areas. We need to think critically about how we're using these programs, including our international exchanges, our international partnerships, so that we close that gap, we close that divide. The mission of South Africa is very interested in the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, social inclusion and social cohesion, as we often talk about here in South Africa. And that is why I wanted to flag the UKZN School of Education program on racial equity. We also have been using and leveraging our other programs to talk about some of these issues, but I think we have to talk about it in the area of education if we are able to actively use these tools to be able to address these issues, so that we get better outcomes for all our students, both in the United States and South Africa, if we want to see a prosperous economy for both our countries. So I'll close with that. Turn it over to Susan.
Thanks, Jacqueline. I don't want to take up much time because I know we're limited. So I'm just going to, first of all, say good afternoon. And thank you very much for having us here today to talk about international exchange. We're very passionate about it. Really thrilled to see U.S. universities here. So thank you for coming all the way. And just a little bit, most of you may already be familiar with our exchange programs, but the U.S. government funds a number of programs that faculty and students from UKZN and from DUT and from UniZulu have benefited from over the years. And one thing I want to emphasize is that from my experience, a lot of people stop before they even get started. And also, I have on occasion have people apply who weren't selected and then never tried again. That was it. They took it very personally. Please don't take the application process personally. We offer opportunities, as do other countries, and every time you reach out to grab one of those opportunities, you grow as an individual. And that's our hope, is that just the application process in itself and the act of researching and finding out what opportunities are out there, taking the initiative to put yourself out there and try, is going to grow you as a professional and help you in your career goals. So see it as a positive thing, not as a once-off, well, I'll just give it a try, and then I'll give up. We would love to see more applications from KZN universities. So some of those programs, if you're not familiar, the ones you most likely will have heard of our Fulbright programs. So we have our Fulbright Visiting Scholar Program, which is known in South Africa as the South African Research Scholar Program, or SARSP, since we love acronyms. And that is for faculty who already have a PhD, who did not just finish the PhD, so it's not for postdocs. It's meant for established faculty members who have some research experience, teaching, lecturing experience, and who want to go to the United States for up to an academic year to do research in their field. So this is a great way to establish relationships with U.S. universities, with colleagues in the U.S. And the wonderful thing about Fulbright is our exchanges go both ways. So if you have colleagues in the U.S., you can encourage them to apply for Fulbright on their side to come to South Africa as well. And we'd love to see more Americans coming to KZN through Fulbright. So that's our scholar program. The other program is the Fulbright student program, which is either for visiting student researchers who are doing a South African PhD and want to go to the United States for a year to do their research. It's also for students who want to go to the US to do a master's degree, or for students who want to go and do a PhD degree. We are currently partnering with the NRF, and so the priority is for visiting student researchers doing a PhD currently here who just want to go for up to a year to the US, and NRF helps fund those students, or it's for students doing a master's degree. But we do consider students wanting to do a PhD, but the priority is the master's and visiting student researchers. But some other programs I'm quickly going to mention that you may not know about. One is our Fulbright Specialist Program, and this is where your institution and your faculty could do a proposal to invite a U.S. specialist to come to your institution for 2 to 6 weeks for a specific project. The most common one in the past, I think, has been curriculum development. But it does not have to be on curriculum development. It can be another project. It can be helping train faculty and staff. It can also, when you invite them, you can partner with another institution, and they can also do work at the other institution. We never get enough applications for that. They are on a rolling basis. The next deadline is the 30th of November. And that would be to bring someone out next year. We need at least a 3 to 4 month lead time. And if you'd like more information on any of our programs, you can contact Jacqueline or myself. Information is also on our website. It's za.usembassy.gov under Exchanges and Culture. So there's the specialist program. If you have colleagues in the US who would like you or someone from your faculty to come and teach and engage their university community for a year, there's a program called the SIR program, which stands for Scholar in Residence. The US university approaches Education and Cultural Affairs to request a scholar in residence, and they could say, we would like a scholar from South Africa with this expertise. Then the embassy gets approached by ECA. Do you know of anyone? And we put it out there to our colleagues at universities. Now, if you whisper in our ear and tell us, you know, we reached out, then we also know to keep our eye out for it and that your institution actually has someone who wants to go. And so that's a great program. It's the Scholar in Residence program. And then more recently, we have our Fulbright Language Teaching Assistant program. And we do currently have a student from UKZN teaching at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, teaching isiZulu to US university students while she takes 4 professional development classes at the postgrad level. And that program, it's for early career teachers or language students, preferably master's level, who want to go to the US for a year of cultural exchange and to teach isiZulu. So that's one of our less well-known programs. And then the other thing I wanted to emphasize especially was our Regional English Language Office. They offer a number of online programs and opportunities for English teachers and lecturers. They also offer exchange programs. One is the Teaching Excellence and Achievement Award, which is for high school teachers to go on a 6-week program to the US. And they also have their English Language Fellows program, which Dean Sebi can tell you more about. They had a fellow for 2 years who helped lead programs, and mostly virtually. That was due to COVID, but virtual programs can be arranged if the fellow can't come in person. And then we have the English Language Specialist program, again through the Regional English Language Office, where you would do a proposal to bring out a specialist specifically around an English language related program. So please remember, I encourage you, if you want more information, look at our website and reach out to us. Thanks very much.
Then we have Prof to present. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry for you to keep me hungry. I hope that I will not take much time. I just have like few slides, so maybe I share with the Zoom. So I'm a bit away from what you have been said. Even I asked our chair before I send my resume. I'm talking in the same language what we are trying to do, but I try to accommodate what is needed here. So what I do that, how I am connected to the international, I just present one slide to indicate why and how it's been connected. And then later one, I just show what we did during COVID in South Africa. And then later on to say, what are the advantage we got using COVID in terms of the internationalization and also for the education things. So those are the 3 points which I emphasize here. Okay, so though I'm from different field, but I try to make it focus to this. Not sure I can share the screen. Okay. Can you able to see the screen? Or? Okay, so if you look at, I don't know what is happening. Okay. Let me see now the PowerPoint. Let's see now whether you can able to see. Okay, if you look at now, yes. So if you look at these 4 slides, so that's what I speak about it. So if you see on the left-hand side on top, so what you see that it's the pollutions around the world. How does it been spreading across? So it's moving for about 100 years. So that gives the information of the climate change and the pollution about how it is happening in the world. And below what you see here, there is a 2 graph. One is moving on this side, the other one is on the right-hand side. So one gives the emission of carbon dioxide. The other one gives the emission of the ozone in the region where it is giving pollutions and then affecting the climate change and the warming the atmosphere. Then on the top, it's clear, it's a drought. There is no water. And below, if you see that, so you can see also the number of images. This is taken in KZN regarding the flood, what we have faced. So it clearly says there is a connection through the international because there's a common problem. The one is the pollution, the second is the climate change, and the third is that the water, one side which you have higher, the other side which is very low, water scarcity. So this is what I'm doing in short. I'm mostly concentrating on the atmospheric research at UKZN. Okay, since I'm not going to give more details about what my research and everything, what I want to give that what we did during the COVID, then I share my the way. So this is the one, we did it in KwaZulu-Natal during the COVID period, and we selected like four sites, which will be one which has more industries, more factories, the other one where we expect more transports, then the other region where it is more localized people, where you have emissions which can be emitted there. So what we see here, this is not the, this is a lockdown, so just remember what we had about a year ago. It's not the stage 1, stage 2, but this is lockdown, level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 and 5. So what it says to me, because I don't want to go in deep to say you, but there is a change. We expected, we had the change during the COVID, during the different level of lockdown, there was a emissions which has been emitted has been reduced or increased. So that means it says from the COVID, what we have learned is there is a way to reduce these emissions. So that's what to bring to the attention there. So besides that, we also looked at it in terms of the health perspectives. So I'm not sure that you people know, or the KZN people know, the July 3rd, 2021. That's where we had about more than 200 people died due to COVID. So we are looking at the impact of the COVID. It's not that only due to the transmission of the disease from one to another, but we want to see how the atmosphere created for spreading this virus. So that's what we are trying to look at it. And we may get published very soon. So the article is coming up there soon. Otherwise, these are the points which I say I put it in the green, taking the advantage of COVID. And then below I put what we faced as a disadvantage of the COVID during the pandemic. The advantage what I have got, it opened the new area of the research. Brings us to do more work on the variation of the pollutions during the different level of the lockdown, because this is common now, because it may even emphasize in your universities, there may be a number of students could be interested to come across to do such kind of a study, because then we can combine that and then provide one overall output to the world in terms of Africa, in terms of South Africa, or in terms of the world, to see, because this is a common topic one can be able to do at any time. And then those are the 4 points which I have mentioned. So I know that there could be a reason how you do this monitoring, if I say the air pollutions in terms of that. So we creating like a satellite remote sensing data for Africa, because most of the satellite data, I also thanks my colleagues here, because you know that most of the satellites have been launched by NASA. And those satellite data product is available for free to use, and it's open use. And we don't need to have like a super high official instrument to work on it. So one can able to work through that. And so my situation here is that we are training number of students. So we created a platform called Atmospheric Remote Sensing Education and Training, where I call it ATM Reset. It's not the ATM you get the money, but at least you get some research going through there. So I'm happy to help if you need some kind of a training, how to use this satellite data, how to use these products, so this one can able to visualize those concept of that. Otherwise, as I said, those are the plus point of the COVID. Again, as I said, we are going back to see what happened in terms of different aspects. It's not only on the education, also the economy, and all other aspects can be learned from the COVID pandemic. And then it can be lesson for us to how to cope with that in the future. So that's what we need to do. Because for me, I don't look at past most of the time. We need to step in to see what's going to be in the future. So to go ahead. Otherwise, we also been affected during the COVID period. The one we had, the problem is the on-site monitoring. It could be common for any research because we can't go into the site to do any measurements because of the level lockdowns and all those things that have affected number of students and number of research because the student research might have been delayed now and their career has been delayed as well in that case. We are also affected by research and student exchange. I hope my French colleagues are here. So I used to have my French partnership for more than 10 years. So we have been stopped for 2 years during the COVID. We can't make any exchange of the students to come to South Africa or to move from South Africa to France. So that has been affected on that. Of course, all other international visit has been delayed and has been caused the issue there. And one of the issue what we had, it's with the European Union. We had a Erasmus Plus, the research exchange program. It was started in 2019 and now it's ended by 2022. With 3 years program, 2 years has been affected by COVID. So that was a bad thing. Of course, we can't do anything on our hand, but maybe we need to think of whether we could be able to get additional opportunity to do the stuff there. Yeah, so this is what I just want to show case. Otherwise, currently we are working on the emissions from different countries. The one we did before, it was Canadian fire. We also used the satellite data products, and the people called me from York University. So we provided the image from the satellite, reanalysis of the data to show how the fire has gone through from Canadian border to US border to Russia and then the whole region, how it has been affected. So it's a forest fire, but we can't stop because this is not in our hand. It's due to the wind speed and wind direction, it can blow any directions there. So that's where we assisted with the international community. We also worked on the Kalpiko. It's a volcanic eruption. I'm not sure whether you have traveled during 2015. Most of the European flight has been stopped due to the emissions from the volcanic eruption. So that even created the platform in South Africa. We could publish more than 5 to 6 research articles, and then 3 PhD students and 1 master degree students benefited out of that. So I'm saying that there is a lot of pandemic, lot of issues there, but we may need to take advantage of the other side and then how we can benefit of the case. Currently, we are working on Tonga. It's a tsunami which has happened in Pacific Ocean, and we could see the effect of tsunami in Southern Africa and African environment. So that's we are planning and we are doing it. We launched recently a balloon in Kruger National Park on the Heritage Day. And it was a good experience to say because they are not known what we are doing it. So we launched at the WITS rural facility, the balloon with the sensor. And then it was early morning at 4:30 we launched it. We had a parachute when the balloon burst around 30 kilometers in the atmosphere. It lands down. So a lady from the rural area, she opened the door exactly, she just get out from the bed and opening the door, and she sees something with the umbrella, with the red color umbrella, and the instrument is falling down by her door. She just carried, she has not even left it down. She took it over, and then I left my number there, and I said to that, please call me if you receive it. So she called me around 7 o'clock and say that I have something in my hand. I thought it's something coming from Jesus giving me something coming down there. Then she listened the sound, which is coming like a blip sound. And she thought that, okay, it could be something like a bomb blasting or something. Then the first question she asked me is that, is it dangerous? Are you going to explore our area or something that? I said, no, don't worry anything. We are not doing it. This is an instrument. So please keep it safe. We will come and take it. But I was wondered, after a second, she sent me SMS saying that how you could be able to see me, or how do you able to identify me where I'm there? I said, no, don't worry, we come to your place in 2 hours. We have a tracker there. So we could able to track the thing. So we went after 2 hours, we were reached next to, we just parked the car, and then she came down. Then she said, we were worried that because it was triggering, and all of my neighbors were asking that, what is this, what is it? Then finally we said, she hand over the instrument, and then I hand over some gift, giving her. What was she said, the first words she said, listen, this is not bomb. That's what she said to everyone there. Yeah. So, but it's a good experience, because sometimes it's also, what I say from this story is the outreach. So whatever we do, the education or the research, if we want to make sure that the common people participate, or common people know what we are doing, is the outreach program. And then it can reach to the laymen, and then they can appreciate your research. Yeah. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. We're grateful to the experiences. These are lived experiences from our colleagues in education. Also grateful to the U.S. Consulate, the work that they're doing with us. Prof. Msibi, your charges are saying it. They are saying it all, yeah. Shannon, Prof., anything you want to add? Or can we take 2 questions only, I guess, 2? I know lunch is already here. So, Prof., you want to say something? Your closing remarks? Just open it up. Please, go ahead with the questions. No, just 2. You don't have. The audience, just 2 questions? I see there's a hand there.
Good morning or good afternoon, and I want to commend the organizers for this wonderful event. And my question is to Prof. I'm sorry, I just forgot. Since we're living in a global village, and I'm Gerda from Safe Cities Media, as well as a keen environmentalist, environmental activist. And I want to know, in terms of student exchange and international studies, how important is it when it comes to environmental studies? Because we live in a global village, and obviously we have to study the entire Earth. So I just want to know a little bit more about that. How important is that exchanging of students internationally when it comes to environment studies? Thank you.
All right, thank you. My quick feedback on that, as I said, though we are interconnected, the environmental pollution is different scale because it comes from one place, from your home, or it could be from your outside, where you can have like other things like industries, factories, or emission from your transport, or it could be coming like natural sources. So that is what we call it the biomass burning. Even the land or the forest get burned, and that can even emit the pollutions. And then the other source, which I said is a natural source, which is like a volcanic eruptions. It's not happening in our place, but it can be transported from one to another. So that is the connections in terms of international. So for example, here in Africa, what we are more familiarized is the Sahara dust. The dust transport, it happens because we can't stop. Even what we call that no customs, nothing can cross over. It can cross over anything. So what we need to do is we need to take care of it. And what we can throw the information to the public is to just give some warning information so that they can be in the safe environment. If we want to know in the past what we did, we use the satellite data, which we call it, I'm not sure if you have time, you can just search. The name is called MODIS. This is a satellite which has 2 sensors. The one is called Aqua and Terra. It passes South Africa almost every afternoon to make a measurements. So what we did for the educational and for the community, it does the fire mapping. It takes the brightness temperatures as a coordinate. So what we use the brightness temperature and then simulate whether that area is going to be burned or there is going to be a fire threatening, has to be and then we used that as a criteria, and then we inform the people through the mobile phone. We give the coordinate to say that in just half an hour or 1 hour, there could be a fire in that location, so that they can take some precautions to be addressed. So that's how it can be relevant in terms of the kind. But so otherwise, people might be in rural areas. For example, we did on the settlement area in Johannesburg or in and other places. People will be using like broy and coal and other fires. And we also have like outdated stoves, the hot plates which you will be using it. Even that can emit pollutions. To make awareness of them, what we did, we gave the point source of emissions. We went to each house and we said that, okay, keep this instrument by your kitchen. We will come and collect it after 15 days. So we could be able to see the emission which we call as a point source of emission. Then we can educate to them to say, instead of using this one, if you use that, it will be economic, and then maybe we can have a green world in the future. That's how I would say your questions to the answer. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. And I just wanted to add as an example of how exchange can help with climate change. So before COVID, Professor Andrew Green from UKZN, who is in the, I want to get it right, geology faculty, went to the United States to Woods Hole. And what he was doing here in South Africa was mapping the ocean floor and also the coastline to see how the water levels have changed over a long period of time, which can be related to climate change. But what he found was fascinating is when he went to the US, the number of times he was asked to speak about his research and findings here. He said that the Americans knew so little about the African coastline and ocean floor and how things were being done. And so that exchange was really important, and he ended up being loaned equipment that he needed for the research here in South Africa. And so it was very much a two-way exchange and very related to the environment. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues. I can see people are hungry now. So I'm not so sure how much time for lunch. Yeah, we have to cut short our lunch, and I want to thank my panelists. You have been so wonderful. Yeah, we will come again next year. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I think it's lunchtime now.